If you're like me, fly fishing is, yes, about catching trout and sometimes a lot of trout, but it's just as much about discovering the whats and the whys as to why trout decide to take a pattern or not, or whether you're successful or not on a day's outing. This series called Discovering the Cipher is an attempt at answering those questions on one particular bug, and in this case we are delving into the early stonefly or the winter stonefly, the small brown stonefly. There's many descriptions to this fly. It happens to be the genus Taniopteryx, and specifically the Taniopteryx nivalis, which is not important, but if you do want to look up any extra information, you can do that. So we've been out in the river, we've sampled some of these bugs found in a particular stretch of the Muskegon River in Michigan, and we're going to take that information. There's a high concentration of those flies, so therefore the fish should be feeding on them as they get more active towards their hatch date, which usually is in early spring. Usually sometime in March we start to see them coming off, in April as well. So the trout are starting to key in on them, so we're going to take that information from our sample on the river. Now we're coming to the vise and we're going to tie an imitation that looks like the natural, and from here we're going to take that pattern and go out and catch some fish with it. So this series is going to attempt to, in a chronological order, go through a way that you can, on your own rivers at home or the Muskegon itself, you can come out, take a sample, tie a fly, and then go catch fish on the flies, and detail that with some specific information. We're going to start off by going over the materials for this particular stonefly. This is a pattern that designed for this particular movement of insects in the early spring or late winter, and I'll go over the materials here real quickly. The abdomen is going to be tied out of this midge tubing in brown from Hairline makes it. Also got a dark brown thread. It's the ultra thread, dark brown. Got a light yellow olive with some possum in it, dubbing that I'm going to use that imitates the thorax of the fly. Has a little different color than the rest of the top side of the fly. And in the wing pads and so forth up front and the head are going to be tied out of this scud back in black that I have to trim to different widths at different times, and I'll go over that as well in the pattern. So let's go ahead and get started on tying this fly. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is attach the thread. Take it to the back where we're going to tie in our tails. One thing I didn't show in the description of the fly was or in the material list, was the pheasant tail. So we're going to use that for our tailing and leg fibers. So we're going to clip off two pheasant tail fibers for the tail. Try to get them right on top there. And adjust the length a little bit if you want to by pulling those fibers. Get them, they were a little long to start there. I'm just going to tie that there and cut that off. Okay, then we're going to, got the thread attached there. We're about halfway up the fly. And we're going to go ahead and cut the midge tubing. Okay, we're going to get some of the midge tubing. And something about this, if you can, I don't know if you can see this here on the video. It's cutting a little wedge there. If you cut this midge tubing at a little angle, you get a little wedge there. And if you tie that, we're going to bring the thread back towards the back of the fly. And once we're within about a 1/4 inch of the tails, we're going to catch that tip of that clipped there. That tip helps you. Oops, that one popped off. Does that. Catch that tip. Once you get about 2 or 3 wraps, it usually will hold in better. There we go. Now we're held in. I'm going to wrap that back right to where those tails came in. Then we're going to come back up to about the middle. We're just going to build a nice taper there. It's a little fatter as you get up towards the thorax. The abdomen kind of tapers, gets thicker, so we're going to go ahead and just build that up a little bit to make that look as natural as possible without spending too much time. So we built a nice thorax there. We're going to leave our thread just past halfway. You notice it's tapered in there. We're going to wrap. Make sure these tails are kind of lifted up before you start these wraps, because that'll want to trap those things on the tails on the bottom side if you're not careful. So we're going to wrap that up one after the other. Get those. There's a nice segmentation with the midge-lace there, like the naturals. Just tie that off. A couple on the front side. Stretch it. If you stretch it and clip it, it leaves a very little low tie-in area. So that completes we've got our tails, two tails, and our thorax there. You can see that. The next step is to take some of the scud back in black and cut just a little notch out of there, and just kind of dull up those edges there, so you end up with a nice V shape. That's going to be for the wing pads. We're going to tie that in forward to start, about right where we end our thread, just past halfway. And you want those wing pads to kind of come up right where the eye, almost even with the eye, right in there. We're going to tie it in backwards, and you'll see why in a second. We'll show you why in here in a second. I'm going to flip that over. I'm going to measure. That looks about right there. I want to make sure that's, when you flip it back, it comes back to about halfway there. Sometimes you have to twist it around a bit there. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and clip these off, and once you've got that measured out, you can go ahead and clip that off. We're going to take the pheasant tail again, clip off 2 fibers for the legs. We're going to tie in 6 legs, and I think the way we tie these in makes it not too mundane or monotonous. I don't like to tie flies that are so detailed they're hard to tie, but the legs on this particular fly, they are very important. So we're going to tie in 2 legs there. We're going to try to split them around that the wing pads there. They're on both sides there. We'll wrap that, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a few securing wraps. Go ahead and trim that flat flush. Again, it's kind of on both sides of that wing pad. And we're going to dub the thorax. Just a little bit. This is not going to color. You just want that bottom side of the thorax where it's a little different color on the ventral side to show up. So we're going to just nice light little bit there. Then we're going to end up pushing this wing pad back on top, back onto the top, wrap it in front of it. So I've done a few secure wraps there. That'll keep that wing pad pushed back over the abdomen. We've got the legs on the bottom side. They're captured by that. We'll get those arranged here in a bit. But so you got 2 of the legs there, the wing pads tied in. Now we're going to take a thinner strip and trim this next strip of body stretch down to a little thinner. It's about a little less than 1/8 of an inch, but right around there. I'm just going to go ahead and tie that in on the top. And we're going to wrap back until we get right back to the front of those wing pads we tied in. So I'm pulling it back there to see it's coming out the same spot. So I've got that there, and now I'm going to take this little scrap end there and trim the front off. So now we've just got the wing pads. This is going to be the head and the little flat wing pads there in front of the. That'll be that once we pull it over. So next step is we're going to tie in. We're going to natural ends pointing that way. Tie those in. Make sure they stay on top a little bit. Again, we're going to try to get them on both sides so that when we pull that thing over, it'll split them. Okay, I'm going to trim that now. So we've got those 2 more legs tied in. And we're going to tie in. Next step we're going to do is come up here and we're going to build a little ball of thread right behind the eye. So we want to create a valley. The valley is going to be between the little ball we're going to create and where we just tied those in, because that's where we're going to tie in our next set of legs. And it just kind of helps as a guide. So we're going to build a little ball up right behind the eye. That'll be the head. And we're going to let that thread rest in that little valley. We're going to tie in 2 more legs. Match those up. Tie that right into that valley there. Those legs slide over to one side. Again, you want one that kind of forked one side of the fly and the other, and then we're going to make a couple of securing wraps. Clip that off right there, the butt ends, those go away. We're going to dub a little more of that dubbing here, just a tiny, tiny bit. This is a lot less. And we're gonna wrap that just in there. Okay, so we got the dubbing. We're gonna pull that. That's gonna split both sets of legs. You can stretch it pretty tight there. And you want to make sure you got both of those legs behind that stretch once you get it going. Okay, so we got that tied down. And then go ahead and pull that over. Just going to wrap one more wrap there. Lift that up and clip it off. And then we're going to go ahead and whip finish it. And there we go. Here's the finished product of the fly. Got the tails, the thorax there with the wing pads, and notice the legs sticking out, real strong legs, which was very characteristic of the nymph when they swim and they get dislodged and try to swim around in the river. They get their legs are sticking out. They're very clumsy swimmers, and I think the legs are a very important part of the pattern. So we're going to take this out onto the river and go see if we can catch some trout on the pattern that we've tied to imitate it.